Okay, let's give this a quick test. Everything looks okay on that. Everything looks okay over there. Howdy ho, everybody. I am just getting everything prepped and set up so I can begin the stream. If you're watching this, then you're watching it on YouTube because I haven't actually begun the stream yet. And that fundamentally means you haven't jumped up my Discord. Why haven't you jumped up my Discord? Come on, it's fun in there. You can actually watch the stream live. You can interact directly with me. Not that anybody ever does, but, you know, you could. It would be fun. Come on, you'll enjoy it. You'll have a good time, I swear, honestly. Anyway, I'm going to jump over to the Discord right now, and of course you should do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all of that shit. And today, as you can probably guess from the reference that you're looking at up here on my screen, I'm going to be working on skirts and the shading around those. And we're going to be talking a little bit about, if you're not much of a weeb, you may not be familiar with the phrase absolute territory. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. So anyway, let me jump on down into the voice chat. And we're getting all connected up. And it's funny. Discord thinks I am still playing Minecraft. But there we go. That's fixed.
But you're not?
Well, yeah, I don't even have a Minecraft window open. I don't know what it's thinking. There it goes. It's figured out that I'm playing Clip Studio Paint. So now I need to share my screen because I need to drop down here to the windowed preview. To the windowed projector. There we go, and we'll take that live. Okay. So, yeah, there we are. We are set up, and I've already done the little YouTube intro and all that. Hey, Katrina, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good.
That's good to hear. Anyway, as you probably noticed while I was in there talking with you guys, we're going to be talking about skirts and the shading of skirts. And I just mentioned for the YouTube audience that you may not be familiar with the phrase or with the term absolute territory, which I'm going to explain. Okay, so when you have a woman that is wearing stockings, okay? Like, if you have, let's say, this girl, oh God, what the hell was that? I just want to move that over here. Now, when you have a woman that's wearing stockings, I pull out an appropriate layer here. The space here, oh, that is much too large a brush. From the top of the stockings to underneath the skirt is what's referred to as absolute territory. And that's just a silly little term that weebs use to go, that's the good part. That's the part we like. Absolute territory. That's it right there. And one of the things that you'll notice in here, I've got a series of different, what do you call them? No, I didn't want to. There we go. Okay, that's what I want to do. Okay, now I've got a series of different reference images here, and they're like all over the place when it comes to the spectrum of like how good the art is. Like this one in particular, I found this one just absolutely charming because the person who did this one right here, they're clearly an amateur artist who's like just getting started out. I mean, they're good, you know, but there's this amateurish feel to it, and I just thought it was particularly charming. So I just went, I will use that as reference because that's cool. But a lot of this is, I haven't done any preparation for like a particular lesson or anything. I'm just kind of messing around with ideas here. And what I've done, I've kind of sort of like messed with my process a little. So you can see right over here, I've got sketch, composition, line art, shading, and color. And then I've got a copy of that has all those same things in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to like work in the copy, and then I'll be able to copy the original one again to like be able to do the next little study and whatnot that I'm doing. And I also put all of my reference into like different folders because there's just not enough space. So I need to be able to turn off some of them and just like have the one that I'm particularly looking at on screen, and probably like enlarge it and shit like that. But anyway, there's some stuff that I noticed going over this, and I'm just going to kind of go over some of these things and point it out. And one of them is, you can see that where the waistline on a skirt is different for different styles here. You can see that right here you got the leg and the thigh here, and you don't really have it clearly defined, but you've got that little shadow there to show the location of the crotch. And you've got the same basic thing over here. This skirt sits very high up on the waist, and the area that the skirt sits, this is probably the best place to use as an example, because it's got all of the spaces there. You've got this little bit right here. You've got this curve, and the skirt can be supported at any of the quote-unquote wide spaces, okay? It can bump out a little bit more underneath of that, but you can have your waist come in here where it sits on top of the hip bones, or you can have the waist sit up slightly higher and actually sit at the waist, possibly even covering up the tummy button there. Which, of course, I never want the tummy button covered up. That's not something I'm interested in. But you've also got right here what they call the hip hugger jean that sits right at the widest part of the hips, right where the thighs are bumping out, right there. And your skirt can actually sit anywhere on that kind of slope in there. But you can put the waistline of the skirt pretty much anywhere from the narrowest part on down. You just can't put it, I mean, obviously when the body widens back up again, if you put the waistline there, it's just going to fall down to the next spot. So you've got that kind of, you've got this shape to the body like this. If you tried to put the waist of your skirt up here, it's just going to fall straight down. And similarly, if you're going to use a very wide kind of hip hugger form factor that sits way down here, it has to sit way down, because if you tried to put it farther up, it'd be like up here. It'd be like a one-piece sort of. It would be kind of like an A-line dress. Or would that be a princess waist? Would that be a princess waist or an empire waist? I think that would fall along the lines of an empire waist is what we're looking at there. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The thing that I want to look at here is I want to look at the way that the shading works on these in particular, and how they fit around this, because you've got kind of this structure, and I want to look at the patterns as they recur in these. It's like right here, you can see there's this kind of scalloped pattern that recurs throughout. And that's really kind of, they've got a pleat thing going on. They just sort of billow it out here. And you can see they shadow in one side of the pleat and not the other, to show that they're going in opposite directions. So you've got shadow there, you've got shadow there, and this is a particular style of pleat that it's not quite the same as a box pleat. A box pleat goes in alternating directions. This is still a knife edge pleat. You've got pleats that are just kind of like, they're straight. When you look at them from underneath, they're just like straight, 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 straight. But then you've got pleats that are laid on top of each other like this, okay? And then you have the classic box pleat, which goes in opposing directions. And that hangs very straight, okay? This is a common sort of thing that you'll see in Catholic school uniforms here in the United States. That's relatively common. You'll get this box pleat because they hang very straight, and then you have this pleat that's back behind that, and you've got all of these different pleats, but this doesn't tend to billow, and when it does, there's a lot of space when this comes apart. When you pull a pleated skirt apart, okay, that additional material there is what gives it room to spread out somewhat. So when you pull these in opposite directions, you get kind of this effect here, and that kind of wings out. Okay, the pleats are sitting on top of each other like this, and when you pull, they come apart this way. So what you end up with off of that, what you end up with there is you get kind of a sweep, kind of a swooping effect, like right here, where you get this billowing sort of flare. But then over here, as that billow reduces, you get more of the obvious pleating and folding is going on. And you got the same thing going on here. And this is not a type of pleating that really exists when you look at this, because you'll see that here what you've got is somebody that knows how to draw a pleat going back. And this is similar to like people that start to learn how to draw teeth, and they go, oh, each tooth is a little bit behind the tooth in front of it. So you got that, and then you got that, and then you got that, and then as you go farther back, then obviously you've got the teeth behind. But what they don't really think about is, when you look at that from above, you've got the teeth, you're seeing less and less of the teeth. Over here, where they've got the teeth going back, you should be seeing less and less tooth. So that should actually come back and be more of a sweeping situation like this, because if you draw down to where each of these teeth comes to in the mouth, you draw down to where it's actually located, and you have that swooping curve of the jawline down here. As you project that up, you can see that as they come forward, the edge of the teeth allows more of the face of the tooth to be seen. And this is kind of obvious. It's like, it's the same thing with perspective. If you go, okay, when you have something in perspective, okay, if it's close to you, then it's bigger than if it's farther away from you. So if you turn it, then this edge is close, this edge is big because it's close to you, but that edge is small because it's far away from you. And perspective just naturally falls out of that. And it's just, once you make that connection, once that clicks in your head, then it's just, everything suddenly becomes obvious. You go, oh, that's how that works. And suddenly you feel like a complete fucking idiot for not realizing it before. It's the same thing with teeth, you know? It's just like you draw things going down the road in perspective, okay? And if you draw some poles that are supposed to be evenly spaced, they look evenly spaced on the page, but they're not, because in perspective, that's not where they'd be. And the way you project that outward, I'm just going to kind of digress here. The way you project that outward is you draw a diagonal, and then from here, you divide the vertical space into 3 pieces, and you draw that back, the vertical space into 3 pieces back here, and you draw each of these here, and then that diagonal, that's where your 3 poles need to be. And you can see that they're getting closer together as they get farther back, because as the space gets farther away, the space gets smaller. And that's one of those things that until you realize it, until you actually get it, you don't recognize that that's what's going wrong. You don't know that's why your picture looks weird. And then when you do finally realize that's what it is, you go, I'm really stupid. You have a lot of moments like that. If you don't like feeling stupid, you're going to spend a lot of time not liking how you feel learning anything, particularly art, because it's like, you feel like you should be able to draw everything, right? I mean, you've seen it. You know what it looks like. You know what the shape is. You know how it all fits together. You should be able to draw it. No. You draw something and that's not what it looks like. That's kind of a mess. But you know, you go through that over and over again. Every time you learn like just a little bit, then the way you draw gets a little bit better, and you feel like a fucking moron, but the saving grace is everybody goes through that shit. Everybody goes through the whole I feel like an idiot process over and over and over again. If you never feel like an idiot, you're not learning anything. Because it's like, oh God, I'm getting way off on a tangent here. But I'm sure that pretty much anybody watching this has heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect. And there's a diagram of what that looks like, of what the process of learning anything looks like. And here's a good example of it. So if I come over here and I just kind of paste it in and transform so we can make it nice and big, so you can see what I'm talking about here. The Dunning-Kruger effect is like, as you learn more, one of the things that's not on here, but that should be on here is, oh, hold on, let me drag this. Yes, apply the transformation. Let me drag this underneath the sketch. What's not on here is your actual amount of understanding, okay? Your actual experience, your actual level of knowledge looks like this, okay? That's the knowledge that you're gaining. That's the wrong layer. The knowledge that you're gaining is like this, okay? But at the very beginning, when you first get started learning anything, you almost immediately think you're fucking brilliant. And you don't know shit. And honestly, I had a little bit of that when I was doing my first few videos on this channel. I thought I knew a lot more than I did, and I was trying to teach, and you know, I'm used to teaching things, and I'm not used to not being good at things. It's not a place I'm used to. And I thought that I had a lot more ability than I had, and I've got knowledge, but I haven't done the practice. I don't have the ability. So I was sitting up here on Mount Stupid, and the whole thing is that, like, you need to be able to look back. Once you get onto this part right here, you need to be able to look back and see, yeah, I remember when I thought I knew everything. And you also need to be able to look back and go, I remember when I realized I didn't know shit. Because you've got a lot of this time right at the beginning. You think you know a lot more than you do, but then you cross this point, and right in this area, pretty much forever after this point, you will know more than you think you do. You will have learned humility, and you've got this space right here where you know a lot more than you think you know. Okay? And that space where you know a lot more than you think you know, where your knowledge is way up here, but you think your knowledge is down here, this point where you're competent and you're like, no, I'm here. And that spot, if you trace it over, that's not that far past that area where you were stupid. That's gaining a significant amount more experience and knowledge. But you've got this drop that comes all the way down here. You think you're here. But when you were actually there, you thought you were so much above that and so far beyond that. You were not. It was not where you were. But you go through this over and over again, and just kind of the reality check that you get is you go, okay, you need to be able to look back and go, I remember when I thought I knew everything. I can do that now. I can look back and go, yeah, I remember when I thought I knew everything. I cannot look back and see the point where I knew nothing, because I'm still on this downward slide right here. I don't know exactly where on this slide I am, but I am still on it. I am still figuring out just how worthless what I know really is in the grand scheme of things. So I'm focusing a lot more on, just fuck it. I just got to practice. I just got to get better at this shit. This is not something I'm good at right now. And there's so much shit that I'm doing wrong. It's like Bum is in here, and he's been very aware, and he's pointed out many times, my line quality is shit. yeah, my line quality is shit. It's absolutely shit. I'm not using the right brush type. I'm not using the right brush strokes. I'm not using the right brush size. I'm not using the right color of line. I'm not doing a lot of stuff that really needs to be done. But doing that stuff won't actually improve the stuff that I suck at right now. So it's something I've pushed down the road. I could work on that right now, but it wouldn't produce meaningful results for me, I don't think. What I'm working on more is fundamentally I'm trying to build this game that I've been putting together. And because I'm trying to build that game, and because that's an important project for me, let me come in here and grab the image I've been using. Where is it? It's in here somewhere. Graphics. There we go. There it is. So it's like right here. I've got this central character that I put in the middle of my game. And this character looks like crap. And I'm aware that this looks like crap. It's got no shading, none whatsoever. There's all kinds of shit wrong with it. But it's so much better than the work I was doing to start with. That is, for the first time I looked at that and I went, I'm not ashamed of that. I could put that in a game and actually feel better than the guy who did, what's that one game? Idling to Rule the Gods? God, the art in that is just like garbage, but it's supposed to be garbage, so that's not really a criticism of the game. So what I'm concerned about is the stuff that actually shows up on this, which is kind of this area here. Okay, the hips on down to about mid-thigh. I'm concerned about the upper body. I'm concerned about the face and hair. And I've kind of been zeroing in on those and kind of working on how to get the faces right, which the face on this is obviously not right. How to get the hair right. I've done a reasonably good video on that. I was pretty happy with the video I put together on shading and drawing hair. But that's not reflected in this picture just yet. And it needs to eventually be reflected in this picture. And once I do a mob to sit in the middle of my game's screen and I go, not only am I not embarrassed by this, I think this looks pretty goddamn good. That's the point where I'm going to go, okay, I need about 50 of these. I need about 50 different characters to sit in the middle of the screen. And those 50 different characters are primarily going to be girls in skirts. So I need to look at skirts. And we have here a billowy skirt. And we have over here a billowy skirt, and we have over here a pleated skirt. And what I was going to get at here was this skirt is not a type of skirt that really exists. It's pleated in the same direction on each side, but nobody has skirts that are made like this. That's not a way that people make skirts. So this is somebody who has basically just figured out how to do pleats and make them look right, but they're not sure how to reverse the direction of the pleats. So they kind of went flat in the front and then they went around the sides. And that's fine. I'm not criticizing this person's art. I'm not saying they did a bad job. It's just, like I said at the beginning, the quality level of this work is all over the place. Like, obviously, this person here has put a lot more effort into drapery and shading and lighting and rendering than this person over here, who is still mostly flat shaded. Similarly, this has much nicer lighting. It has much better coverage. It's got all of the highlights over here and whatnot, and that's just really, really well done. But the quality of these is all over the place. And all I'm really doing is kind of looking at this and trying to go, what are the patterns? What are the kind of things that I'm looking for on this that will produce the kind of and Bum just said the most important thing you can do is confident strokes, and absolutely you're right that I need to do confident strokes, but I'm not confident when I'm working on new stuff that I haven't done before. And I do work on confident strokes. I do work on putting the stroke where it actually belongs. And a large part of that is get the image of where it goes in your head and then draw it. And if it's not in the right place, whack Control-Z. I've seen so many people that just like, they draw the line and then they're like, no, 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 no. That's an artistic thing that people do over and over again. It's just like they'll draw a line and they'll go, that's not where it goes. That, no, that, no, that, no. It's like if I were working from this reference right here and I were to go, okay, here's the thigh. That's about the right place for the thigh. That's about the right place for the other side of the thigh. And then the other leg is back here and we've got kind of a backward slope there. So here's kind of the crotch area on that. I'm not too concerned about the confidence of these strokes because this is just here for me to go, okay, the skirt follows here and then it flares out here. The skirt here comes away from the body. Here's the leg right here, but the skirt is sitting in front of that. And you've got kind of these swooping lines here, and those lines are altered obviously by the crease here and the underlying shapes like this leg and the crease in the hip that would naturally be there. You can't see that there really. It's kind of outlined on this shadow, but because of the way that the leg is lifted here, as this pleat comes down, it's shifted forward by the leg underneath of it pulling the material forward. And then here again, you've got this little pleated area. So those are the things that I'm interested in, is thinking about those and thinking about how they're reflected on the shape of the body. And over here, again, you've got, here's the material that comes down and then it flares out from the body. And thinking about how that works and how that is reflected around the body, that's mostly what I'm concerned with. I'm not so concerned with, is my line art perfect? This is never going to be a finished piece. This is practice. You know, it's just practice. And you can see here that this skirt is sitting reasonably high on the waistline. So if we were to take this bit right here, you can see right here the shirt kind of bags out a little bit around it because it's up high, and being up high, this is about where the navel is, right about exactly underneath of that. And here are the hips right here. So we've kind of got this structure for the body behind this. And then up here we've got the waistline. And you can't really see any of that, but it is there. It is in that area. I'm not too concerned about stroke confidence and stuff like that on this exercise because that's not the focus. I mean, it becomes the focus later, but it's you focus on one thing and you don't worry about the other thing. Like I'm concerned about, here's a skirt. The skirt needs to follow the body and then it needs to flare out depending on the level of dynamic motion. And you can see from like the arms here, this is like this bouncy happy girl who's, you know, dancing around all over the place. So the skirt's flying up and you're getting this sort of billowy effect right there. Now what I really want to take a look at is where exactly does the shading fall? How does the shading work? This leg is coming back, so it actually ends up right here. It ends up almost completely shaded. And then we've got here, there's a little bit of shading here, but it's just barely there. And then this area, you get kind of this. It's almost like when you look at how a sheet hangs off of a clothesline, okay? You get the top edge hangs like this, and then each individual fold goes a little bit deeper. So you've got kind of this effect here, and then this one is just hanging down in sort of a pipe fold. But this bit here, okay, you're getting the same basic thing, but it's upside down. So you've got this wide swing here, but the projection of the shadow is only coming a little bit down the leg on that. And these are the kind of things I'm looking for. As you look here, you can see there's kind of a tracing of the skirt here. But looking at that, I don't feel like that's the way the shadow would really work on this skirt. I feel like if the light is coming from up here, okay, because this is coming up as high as it is, if the light's coming from this direction, okay, then what you should have is you should have light coming in here, and you should get a steeper shadow in here, because that light is being blocked by the skirt here and here. So it's going to give you kind of a scooping shadow there. And then that's going to put everything in shadow. Why there are these highlights in the front here, if the light would be coming from back here. If the light's coming from above, it makes no sense for there to be any highlights on the legs. And it's one of those things where looking at people with different skill levels is useful, because it develops your eye and your ability to see how well somebody else has drawn something and whether you should draw that way. Now, I personally am very hesitant to ever tell anybody they've done a bad job or anything, or that they've done something wrong. If somebody asks for feedback on their art, that is one thing. But if they say, hey, what do you think? Stick to saying positive stuff. Artists are fragile. You never know who's sitting on Mount Stupid over there. You know, and I might still be pretty close to the peak of Mount Stupid. I'm not sure how far along I've come since this. Like confidence, I'm below the confidence line. I know I'm below the confidence line. Somewhere below that, you know? That little layer there where I'm competent, I don't feel like I'm there. I don't feel like I'm going to get there for a long, long time. But I don't have ridiculous ambitions. That's the important thing. Set your ambitions at a reasonable place. Work on things that you can reasonably work on. See, this, we've got that swooping shadow there, and we've got a swooping shadow there, but as this is billowing out to the side here, the light can kind of creep up underneath of this. You've got this one little bit of highlight there. That's something that, you know, it's not obvious at this size necessarily, particularly if you're watching this at not too high a resolution. But we've got kind of this, got this highlight in this area. And we got the highlight there and the highlight there. And then we've got a sort of, we've got the shadow in there, we've got the shadow of the back of the leg there, we got the shadow of the back of the leg there. And that kind of establishes which leg is in front, which leg is advancing. So you can see here that this is the back leg, because duh, this is the one in front here. Let me, oops. Let me jump back out. What the? Okay, yeah, let's flip that back over. Okay, but you can kind of see that obviously this leg is in front because she's turned that direction, and this leg is in back. So we have to identify that leg's in back. Here's the front of the leg here. Here's the back part of the leg here. Here's the shadow of the skirt, and you can see that while the skirt itself is just kind of straight, okay, and this is another skirt design where the skirt wraps around from the back, kind of wraps around from the back here, and then in front there's a panel that fastens to it, okay? That's another relatively common design for a skirt, but that's typically, that's a military uniform design skirt. And it's actually fundamentally based on the way that great kilts are wrapped in Scotland, because this flap up in the front, that basically takes the place of the sporrans, which, if you're not Irish, you may not know what any idea what that means. I don't know what the hell I'm doing anymore. But yeah. So you've got this reasonably flat piece that's shading the legs underneath, but the legs underneath are three-dimensional shapes. And because they're three-dimensional shapes, the shadow is falling down on them and they're curved. So you've got the shadow coming down onto, here's one leg moving forward and one leg moving back. Here's the front of that skirt. And as that light falls down, it's going around the cylindrical shapes of the legs, and it's going into that space between them. So that's one of the more difficult things for me with shadows, is recognizing like where exactly that shadow is going to fall and how. Like you look right here, the skirt is out here in this area. This leg is farther forward, so that shadow falls much farther down on it, but it only falls up around here in this area. And then in this space right here, because it's right underneath of that, and this part of the skirt is just like hanging right there, and the direction the light is coming from, it's shading that entire part of the leg. Similarly, we've got a darker area here right between the legs, and we've got a little bit of a highlight here because we've got light coming in from the side. This is kind of where that shading is coming from. It would continue onward, but because this leg is significantly farther back than this leg, because we've got a walking person, then that shadow falls here, but it's falling much farther down on that leg because it's coming down here past the skirt. And in order to come past the skirt and cast the shadow up here on this leg, and cast the shadow way down farther on the other leg. I don't know if I'm making any sense here, but basically I'm talking to myself, so it doesn't matter. I see Bum has bailed because he's sleepy. That's okay. That's fine. Just like I was saying earlier, never beat yourself up for not being able to show up. Anyway, I need to, once again, concentrate on the real issue, which is I need to be thinking in terms of shapes and not in terms of lines. More like a painter and less like a cartoonist. Because that's sort of the issue I've been running into. No, wait, I'm on the wrong. Okay, need to come down to color. Is that really the skin color they're working with there? That's so pale. That doesn't even look like skin. There we go. That's more like it. Sometimes people use skin tones that are so pale, I'm just like, are you trying to like make paper people? Okay, so start off kind of getting an idea where the legs are, and then we'll rough in some line art. And the line art up here, we're going to jump down to, it needs to be a much smaller, pen size. So there's kind of where that sits. We're going to presume we have a hip line up here. And Jump back into the color area and use a little more space. A little more size, rather. A little more size. So kind of here's our naked booty girl. I'm not going to draw the booty. That's not necessary. That's uncalled for. So we're going to come over here and we're just going to kind of rough in. If we've got a waistline right here, we got a waistline right here, right in this area, then what we want to do is we want to think in terms of here's the I'm going to drop the opacity of my sketch down so I can just kind of put something together. Now, the material is going to sit close to the skin, and then it's going to flare out a bit. But in this direction, it's not going to flare out as much as in the other direction. Now, we're going to have a pleat here and a pleat here. And as we've got more motion, these pleats are going to kind of gather out. And right here is where we get that first bit where it really flares outward over here. And again, we've got this bit there, and then the skirt will flare out over here. Now, what I'm mostly concerned about is in the shading area, which is going to be in a multiply context. I want to think about where exactly where the shadow of this skirt hits. So if I just kind of trace around the edge of the skirt and go, where's that going to fall? Sort of get that in there. And that's going to give us a good starting point. And if I now take it over to the blend brush and I just kind of pull that down a bit. I just kind of blend that in. That should give me something reasonable, and then I can jump into the line art area and I can go, okay. And we're still working with black, and we're going to do kind of that's a blend brush still. So let's go to a regular brush. We're still working on Bit Husky. So here's the edge of that, and then we got, there's a pleat, and there's a pleat. Here's another pleat, and that's going to swing around here. This will come up. This is where things start to really billow. And then we'll take that up over there. And I'm not going to worry overly about how that pans out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clear out this space here. Take out that line. And we're going to take out, obviously, the line between the legs, which is not necessary. Although, that one right there, we kind of need, and we are looking at two legs there. I'm not going to worry overly about this. I'm going to put a little billowy pleat there. And now I want to get some kind of color in there. We'll do kind of a deep green sort of skirt. Does that seem right? That's not a very good green. Let's desaturate that a little bit. This isn't bad for a flat shade color. So we'll flat shade this space here. And we've got shading on top of that, so I'm gonna have to wipe that shading, which is not especially difficult. I just kind of pull the shading off of here, and then we'll do brand new shading for the skirt. So first of all, let's come over here to our line art because we need just a bit of line in there. That's too wide. There we are, right there. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the sketch there, and we'll grab that and jump into our color copy. Put that where it belongs, and then jump into the shading copy. Wipe out those last few little bits of shading, and now we are going to use the same basic trick of multiplying the same color, like so, to do our shading. Let's think about this and go, okay, we're going to have some shading over here. In fact, we're going to have substantial shading over here because of the way everything is coming along that. And we're going to have even more substantial shading down there, and that's going to be nice and powerful. There's a bit in there, and then over here we've got a bit along the side here, and we've got a substantial bit along the side there. And then, we got some there, and we've got we'll do kind of a swoopy bit here. Now we'll flip over to our blend tool and go so we want to kind of blend that edge in there. I want to blend that edge in across there. Not doing a great job on this, but that's that is actually coming out looking reasonably good. And clear that up somewhat, and we should probably pull that out somewhat. And okay, I need to jump down into my color layer. Yeah, kind of shore up that space there. Well, clean that up. We'll clean that up. I think that's on the shading layer right there. Okay. And that's something. It's not terrible. The shading isn't really obvious, and I feel like there needs to be more shading in here. because this leg's farther back. And I'll take that to the blend brush. Okay. This is still just very, I don't feel like this skin tone is really very, I don't feel like it's very usable. Let's start from there. Go there. We'll come over to our color. Oh, it helps if you actually switch away from the blend brush. So if I just kind of replace this space here, it should automatically pick up the shading. Yeah, it's a little bit too saturated. It's a little bit too desaturated. There we go. That feels like a good tone right there. Maybe a little bit pinker. There we are. So we'll scooch up into that. All of that taken care of. And then we'll jump over into our shading copy and we'll use the exact same color. And we'll just kind of hit the same general space in there. And then we'll blend that in again. Back over to the blending brush. So if I pull that in and then smooth it over there, and we can do the same basic thing over here. And when I do that over here, we pull that in, we get our blending together. Okay, and that's definitely producing a that is definitely producing a better result than I would have hoped. But I mean, it's not great, but it is like, it is there. It is looking reasonable. Let's come over to our line art. There's a bunch of stuff in the line art that I didn't. I'm going to pull that bit there. I'm going to pull that bit there. Let's jump all the way down to black so we can shore up that line and that line. And then we'll go to our blender and into shading to tone that down somewhat. Okay. That works. I feel like I'm missing something right in here. I feel like this should have a bit of shading to it. One of the major things I need to worry about, and one of the major things I need to work on, is just being able to use my tools and understand where they are and what I'm doing with them and how to get hold of them. Now let's jump back over here to our color. Let's sample this, and let's brighten it up a little, and we'll do that highlight thing. That highlight thing that everybody else is doing. Jump back to line art, jump back to black. Shore up that line. Clear that up. So that's something. I mean, that's a result. I mean, am I happy with it? Not especially, but it's certainly something that looks better than I was doing with shit like this. I can do better than this now. The line art is definitely too thick. I mean, Bum's right about that. My line art, my line work is shit. It's absolutely awful, and I need to work on it. But that's not something I'm concentrating on right this moment. I'm just I'm working on my stuff, and there's all of the stuff that I'm working on. And right now, it's mostly color and shading and getting the forms and whatnot right. It's like somewhere along the line, I need to worry about things like patterns. How am I going to do patterns? Why is that not showing up? That's because I'm still on the... No, that's not it. That right there, that kind of stuff right there, working on patterns in clothing. I mean, even just something as simple as this stripe, I have no idea what I'm doing. You can see here that this little stripe that this guy's done, it slavishly follows the edge of the shape. But then you get stuff like this that's all contoured and forms around all of it. And then here, this is a particular style that a lot of people use in comic art and manga art. And it's just the pattern is there, but there's no effort to make it conform to the underlying fabric or shape. And the way that was typically done back in the day was you would get little sheets of sticker paper that had these patterns on them. They were from a company called Zipatone, and you would actually stick them down on your comic book art, and you would cut around your line art with a razor blade to get it out, to get it exactly the shape you wanted and exactly the way that you wanted the pattern to look. My voice is quitting on me. I've been doing videos all fucking day today. I did like 4 hours of Minecraft videos. But yeah, we're about in an hour here, so I'm gonna bail on this anyway. Man, it has been a long time since I streamed and spoke until I literally lost my voice. I might have to think about how to avoid that in the future. But yeah, that's where we are. And yeah, everybody watching this on YouTube, you should definitely jump up my Discord so you can watch these streams live. It's great fun. We get like sometimes a couple of people show up and we exchange like a dozen words. It's really fucking cool. Hey, if you showed up, maybe we could exchange 24 words. Wouldn't that be neat? And some of those words would be yours. You could say, I don't know, like fart. You could say fart on the stream. That would be funny. I don't know. That's kind of the sort of audience I attract, is people who show up and say fart on the stream. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the stream. And thanks for showing up, you guys. Regardless of how long you showed up for, regardless of how much attention you paid, or whether you participated at all, that's fine. You know, like we were saying earlier, you're not obligated to show up for the streams. You know, I do the streams to force myself to practice, and the fact that you might show up is enough to make me keep doing them. So that's the purpose this serves. There was stuff I wanted to talk about that I didn't get to as well, like the thigh indent around stockings. You can see here that the skin indents a little around the stocking because that stocking is held up by friction. It's squeezing the thigh, so the skin has to dimple in there, and I didn't get to talk about that at all. But yeah, that's I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to stop the recording, but I will hang out for a while on the Discord because that's the kind of person I am. Anyway, do the little YouTube dance, hit like, subscribe, make a comment, whatever. Grab the bell icon if you want. Yeah. Okay, bye.